My GF went to Vegas. Her friend posted a video that ended our relationship. I'm a 29-year-old guy living just outside Las Vegas. For the last 2 years, I lived there with my girlfriend Maya. Or at least, I thought we were building something real. You know, the kind of relationship that slowly becomes routine. Not boring routine, but comfortable routine. Sunday grocery trips, Friday night takeout, watching terrible reality shows together even though we both pretend we hate them. Maya worked at a marketing firm. I worked remote doing IT support for a company based in Austin. Most days I worked from home, which meant I was usually the one making coffee in the morning, cooking dinner in the evening, and keeping the apartment from turning into chaos. And honestly, I didn't mind, because Maya was the kind of person who filled a room with energy. She laughed loud, told dramatic stories, and somehow managed to make even boring errands feel like an adventure. That's the version of her I knew. The version that kissed me goodbye at the airport 2 weeks ago. The version that smiled and said, "Don't miss me too much." She and 3 of her friends were going on a girls' trip to Las Vegas. Yes, we already lived in Vegas. But apparently the trip was still a big deal because they were staying in one of the luxury hotels on the Strip and doing the whole party weekend. Clubs, pool parties, fancy restaurants, the works. Her friend Ashley had just gotten out of a long relationship, so the whole trip was supposed to be a girls gone wild type celebration. When Maya first told me about it months earlier, I didn't think much of it. People go on trips, people party, relationships survive those things all the time. At least, healthy ones do. The morning she left, I drove her to the airport. Traffic near the Strip was awful like usual. Tourists everywhere. When we pulled up to the terminal, she leaned over the center console and kissed me. "You're going to miss me," she said. I laughed. Probably. She grabbed her suitcase from the trunk and waved as she walked inside. That was the last normal moment we had. Because 2 days later, everything changed. Saturday night, I was at home eating leftover pizza and watching random YouTube videos. The apartment felt weirdly quiet without Maya. Not bad quiet, just different. Around 11:30 p.m., my phone buzzed. Instagram notification. Normally I ignore those, but I was bored, so I opened it. It was a story posted by Ashley, one of Maya's friends on the trip. The video showed a crowded nightclub. Lights flashing, music so loud the phone microphone couldn't even capture it properly. People dancing everywhere. At first I didn't even see Maya. The camera was spinning around the dance floor. Then it stopped, and there she was, sitting on a low couch in a VIP section, laughing, hair slightly messy like she'd been dancing. Drink in her hand, totally normal, totally harmless, at least for the first 3 seconds. Then I noticed something, a hand, a man's hand, resting casually on her thigh. At first my brain tried to explain it away. Maybe someone sat down next to her. Maybe it was accidental. Maybe the angle made it look worse than it actually was. Then the camera shifted slightly, and the hand moved, not away, but closer. The fingers squeezed her leg gently, and Maya leaned toward him as he said something in her ear. That's when I saw the ring. A gold wedding band, clear as day under the flashing club lights. And I knew one thing immediately. It wasn't mine. I replayed the story 3 times, each time hoping I'd somehow misinterpreted it. But the more I watched it, the clearer it became. She wasn't uncomfortable. She wasn't pushing him away. She wasn't even surprised. She looked comfortable, like it had been happening all night. I sat there staring at my phone, waiting for anger to hit me, waiting for the urge to call her. But instead, something strange happened. Everything went quiet, not outside, inside my head, because deep down, I realized something. If someone is comfortable doing that in front of cameras, what happens when there aren't any? I closed the app, put the phone down, and stared at the wall for about 10 minutes. No yelling, no dramatic reaction, just thinking. Then I stood up, walked into the bedroom, and opened the closet. That's when I made the decision. I wasn't going to fight. I wasn't going to accuse. I wasn't even going to ask. Because sometimes the most honest answer someone gives you is the one they don't know you saw. So instead of starting an argument, I started packing. When I opened the closet that night, I didn't even fully know what I was doing yet. All I knew was that something had shifted. You know that feeling when a moment changes the way you look at someone forever. Like a switch flips in your brain and suddenly the person you trusted doesn't feel the same anymore. That's what it felt like. The apartment was quiet except for the hum of the refrigerator in the kitchen. I grabbed one of my duffel bags and threw it on the bed. At first, I told myself I was just packing a few things. Maybe I needed space. Maybe I'd crash at my friend Ethan's place for a few days. But the more I stood there, the more I thought about that video. Her laughing, that guy's hand, the ring, and the weirdest part, she didn't look surprised at all. It didn't look like a random moment. It looked comfortable, like it had been happening all night. I packed a few shirts, then a few more, then my laptop, then my shoes, Within 10 minutes, the duffel bag was full. I zipped it up and carried it to the living room. Then I sat down on the couch. The same couch Maya and I bought together 2 years ago. Well, technically I bought it, but we picked it out together at a furniture store near Las Vegas. I leaned back and stared at the ceiling. And that's when the thoughts started coming. Not about the video. About the little things from the past year. The late nights. The sudden, girls' dinners. The times she came home smelling like a bar even though she said they went to a restaurant. At the time, I never questioned it. Because trust makes you blind to things that look obvious in hindsight. I picked up my phone again. The Instagram story was still there. I watched it one more time. This time I noticed something new. The guy's arm was resting behind her on the couch. Almost like they had been sitting like that for a while. That's when the calm feeling came back. The same calm feeling I had earlier. And the decision got clearer. I wasn't going to ask questions. I wasn't going to argue. Because if someone can sit like that in a crowded club, in front of friends, knowing cameras are around, then the truth probably isn't something I want explained. I stood up, walked back into the bedroom, and grabbed another bag. The next morning, I woke up earlier than usual. Not because I had to, but because my brain refused to shut off. Sunlight was creeping through the blinds. For a few seconds, I forgot everything. Then I looked at the half-packed room. And remembered, Maya had texted me around 2 a.m. Vegas is crazy tonight, tears of joy. Miss you, babe. I stared at the messages for a long time. Then I locked my phone and put it down. No reply, not yet. Instead, I made coffee, sat at the kitchen table, and started making a list. Not a breakup speech, not questions, just logistics. What furniture was mine? What electronics were mine? What things I'd paid for? The more I wrote, the longer the list got. The TV, the couch, the coffee table, the gaming PC, the sound system, even the dining table. By the time I finished the list, I realized something. Almost everything in the apartment was mine. Not because Maya never offered to help, but because I made more money and always said, don't worry about it. Funny how that works out sometimes. Around noon, I called Ethan. Ethan and I had been friends since college. He moved to Phoenix a few years ago but still visited Vegas all the time. He answered on the third ring. Yo, hey, I said, you sound weird, he replied immediately. I hesitated. Then I said, if you saw a video of your girlfriend in a club with some random guy's hand on her thigh, what would you do? There was a pause. A random guy. Yeah, another pause. Was she pushing him away? No. Was she drunk? Probably. Did she look uncomfortable? I thought about it. No. Ethan sighed. Man, that's rough. Then he asked the question I expected. Did you talk to her? No. Why not? I looked around the apartment. The couch, the TV, the photos of us on the wall. Because I think I already know enough. There was silence on the line for a few seconds. Then he said something that stuck with me. You know what the worst part about stuff like that is? What? It's not the moment you see it. It's all the little memories that suddenly start looking suspicious. I didn't answer. Because he was right. He asked, so what are you going to do? I looked at my list on the table. Then I looked at the living room. And the idea fully formed in my head. I'm moving out. Ethan laughed slightly. Dude, you live together. I know. So where are you going to put everything? I stood up and walked toward the window. Outside, I could see the endless stretch of desert beyond the city. Then I said the words that surprised even me. I'm not just moving out. I'm taking everything that's mine. Ethan was quiet again. Then he said, man, that's cold. Maybe, but at least it's honest. Because here's the thing about breakups. Most people spend weeks arguing. Trying to get the truth. Trying to fix something that already broke. I didn't want that. I didn't want excuses. I didn't want to hear, it meant nothing. I just wanted clarity. And sometimes the clearest message you can send someone is silence. So that afternoon, I opened my laptop and reserved a U-Haul. Right there in Las Vegas. Pickup time, Monday morning, because Maya and her friends weren't coming back until Thursday, which meant I had 3 full days to disappear. And by the time her plane landed, the apartment wouldn't look the same. Not even close. Monday morning came faster than I expected. I barely slept the night before. Every time I closed my eyes, that same image kept flashing in my head. The couch in the club. The flashing lights. The hand on her thigh. By the time the sun started rising over the desert outside Las Vegas, I had already been awake for hours. I made coffee, sat at the kitchen counter, and looked around the apartment. 2 years of memories lived inside those walls. The first Christmas tree we set up in the corner of the living room. The small dent in the hallway wall from when we tried to move the couch ourselves. The photo of us at Red Rock Canyon hanging near the TV. Every object had a memory attached to it, and that made what I was about to do feel heavier. But not impossible, because the more I thought about that video, the more something inside me hardened. Trust is weird like that. It takes years to build. but sometimes it only takes 10 seconds to destroy. At 9 a.m., my phone buzzed. Another text from Maya. Good morning, babe. Vegas hangover is real today. Pool party later. I stared at the messages. Then I locked my phone and slid it across the counter. Still no reply, not because I wanted to punish her, but because I didn't trust anything she might say, and I didn't want to hear explanations. At 10 a.m., the U-Haul arrived. A bright orange truck parked right outside the apartment building. The driver handed me the keys and did a quick walk through. Moving far? He asked. I shrugged. Just across town. Technically that wasn't a lie. I had already arranged to stay temporarily at Ethan's cousin's place until I figured out something more permanent. The moment the truck pulled away, reality started moving fast. I started with the easy stuff. Clothes, shoes, electronics. Within an hour, my office setup was completely gone. The desk, the monitors, the gaming PC, all of it packed into the truck. Then came the bigger stuff. The TV mounted on the living room wall. I unscrewed it carefully and wrapped it in blankets. Next was the coffee table. Then the bookshelves. Each time I carried something outside, the apartment felt more hollow. More empty, like the life we built together was slowly dissolving. Around noon, one of the neighbors walked by while I was loading the couch. He looked confused. You moving out? Yeah, I said. Girlfriend coming with you. I lifted the couch into the truck and shook my head. No, he didn't ask anything else. And honestly, I was grateful for that, because explaining the situation out loud would have made it feel too real. By mid-afternoon, the living room was almost unrecognizable. The big gray couch was gone. The TV stand was gone. The rug that used to sit under the coffee table was rolled up in the truck. All that remained was empty floor space and echoing walls. I stood in the middle of the room for a moment. The silence felt different now, louder somehow, like the apartment itself knew something had ended. Then I remembered something. The photo wall. Near the hallway, Maya had hung about a dozen framed pictures of us. Road trips, birthdays, random selfies. I walked over and started taking them down one by one. Each frame went into a box. Except one. The picture from our first trip together to California. We were standing on the beach near San Diego, both smiling like idiots with the ocean behind us. For a moment, I just stared at it, trying to remember what that version of us felt like. Back when things were simple. Back when trust felt automatic. Then I placed the frame face down on the kitchen counter. And walked away. By 4 p.m., almost everything I owned was in the truck. The apartment looked like a rental unit waiting for its next tenant. Empty walls, bare floors, echoes, but there was still one thing left to do. The message. Not a long letter, not a dramatic goodbye, just the truth. I opened my laptop and printed a single page. A screenshot. Ashley's Instagram story. The exact moment the camera caught Maya sitting there. The guy's hand resting on her thigh. The wedding ring shining under the club lights. No captions, no explanation, just the image. I placed the paper neatly on the kitchen counter, right next to the photo from San Diego. Then I grabbed my last bag and walked to the door. Before leaving, I took one final look around the apartment. 2 years, reduced to an empty room. But strangely, I didn't feel angry. I didn't even feel sad. Mostly, I felt relieved. Because sometimes the hardest part of a relationship isn't leaving. It's staying after you've already seen the truth. I turned off the lights, closed the door, and locked it behind me. As I carried the final bag down the hallway, my phone buzzed again. Another message from Maya. Just got ready for tonight. Clubbing again. Vegas is insane. I looked at the message for a second. Then I placed the phone back in my pocket. Because the craziest part, she had absolutely no idea that by the time her plane landed later that week, the home she thought she was returning to would already be gone. The strangest part about the next few days wasn't the silence. It was how normal everything felt. After I finished moving out of the apartment in Las Vegas, I drove the U-Haul across town to a small storage unit. Most of my furniture went in there. Couch, TV, desk, boxes filled with random things I hadn't even looked at yet. By the time I finished unloading everything, the sun was already setting behind the mountains. The sky turned that deep orange color the desert always gets in the evening. I locked the storage unit and sat in my car for a few minutes. My phone buzzed again. Another text from Maya. Last night here. Don't worry, I'm bringing you something from Vegas. I stared at the message for a second. Then I locked the screen. Still no reply. Not because I was trying to be dramatic, but because the conversation had already ended in my head. Over the next 2 days, I stayed at Ethan's cousin's apartment. A small place on the other side of the city. He barely asked questions, just handed me a spare key and said, stay as long as you need. During those days, Maya kept texting like everything was normal. Pictures from restaurants, selfies with her friends, videos from clubs. I never responded, but I watched, not because I wanted to torture myself, more because I wanted to see if there were any signs of guilt. There weren't. She looked happy, Carefree, like someone who believed everything back home was exactly the way she left it. Then Thursday finally arrived, the day she flew back. Her flight was scheduled to land around 2 p.m. I knew because she'd told me the details weeks earlier. That morning, my phone buzzed again. Boarding now, see you soon. For a moment, I almost replied. Almost typed something, but I stopped myself, because what could I possibly say? Safe flight, can't wait to see you. Neither of those things were true anymore. So instead, I just waited. Around 3:30 p.m., my phone rang. Maya calling. I watched it ring, didn't answer. A minute later, another call. Then another. Then the text started. Hey, I just got home. Did you move the TV? A few seconds later, why is the couch gone? Then another message. Did we get robbed? I sat on the couch in Ethan's cousin's living room, staring at my phone. More messages came in. Where are you? Why is the apartment empty? Then finally, why is there a picture on the counter? I exhaled slowly, because now the moment had arrived. I opened the message box. And for the first time in 4 days, I typed a reply. Just one sentence. Ask the guy with the ring. I hit send. Then I set the phone down. For about 30 seconds, nothing happened. Then my phone exploded. Calls, messages, notifications back to back. I picked it up and read the first text. What are you talking about? Then another. What ring? Then another. Oh my God, are you serious right now? I leaned back and waited. Because I knew what was coming next. The excuses, the explanations, the denial. A few seconds later, another message arrived. It's not what it looks like. I almost laughed, because that sentence is probably the most predictable one in human history. Then the phone rang again. This time I answered. The moment I picked up, Maya's voice came through the speaker. Panicked. What the hell is going on? I didn't say anything at first. I just let the silence sit there. Then she spoke again. Why is everything gone? Why did you move out? I replied calmly. You saw the picture. Her voice immediately got louder. That was nothing. It was just a guy sitting next to me. He was drunk. He put his hand there for like 2 seconds. I rubbed my forehead. 2 seconds long enough for your friend to film it. She hesitated. Then she said something that surprised me. You didn't even ask me what happened. You just left. And maybe she was right. Maybe most people would have asked questions. But I had already thought about that. A lot. So I answered honestly. Because I don't need an explanation for something I already saw. She started crying. Real crying. The kind where people struggle to talk between breaths. You're overreacting. It was nothing. I swear. I stayed quiet for a moment. Then I asked one question. Did you push his hand away? Silence. Just breathing on the other side of the phone. After a few seconds, she finally answered. No. But, that was enough. I interrupted her. That's all I needed to know. She started talking faster now. Trying to explain. He was just being friendly. It was a bachelor party. I didn't want to make things awkward. But the more she talked, the less convincing it sounded. Because the truth was simple. People who respect their relationship don't worry about making strangers comfortable. They worry about making their partner comfortable. Eventually she asked the question I knew was coming. Are you seriously ending 2 years over a 10-second video? I leaned back in the chair, thinking about that moment again. Then I answered, no. She sniffled. Then why? I took a slow breath. Because of how comfortable you looked during those 10 seconds. The line went quiet, for a long time, and for the first time since the call started. She didn't have an answer. After that long silence on the phone, Maya finally spoke again. But her voice had changed. Before, it sounded defensive. Now it sounded desperate. You're seriously leaving me over this? She asked quietly. I leaned back in the chair and stared at the ceiling of Ethan's cousin's apartment. I'm not leaving you over a video, I said. Then what are you doing? She asked. I'm leaving because of what the video showed me. She sniffed again. It showed nothing. It showed a drunk guy touching my leg for 2 seconds. I didn't respond immediately, because the more she talked, the more it felt like she was trying to convince herself more than me. You didn't even ask me what happened that night, she continued. You just packed everything and disappeared. Do you know how crazy that is? I thought about that for a second. Maybe it did sound crazy. Most people would have fought, argued, demanded answers. But something about that moment in the video made me realize something important. Sometimes the truth reveals itself when people don't think they're being watched. So instead of arguing, I asked her a different question. How long were you sitting next to him? There was a pause. Not long, she said quickly. How long? I don't know. Maybe 10 minutes. 10 minutes. Not 2 seconds. Already the story was changing. And during those 10 minutes, I asked, you never thought to move away? He was just talking, she replied. And his hand. He was drunk. That's not what I asked. She didn't answer right away. Instead, she said something else. You're blowing this way out of proportion. I went on a girls' trip. We were partying. Things get weird in clubs. Maybe that's true. Maybe things do get weird in clubs. But there's a big difference between weird and disrespectful. Finally she asked the question I had been expecting. Where are you even staying? That doesn't matter, I said. It does matter, she replied. You're my boyfriend. I sighed. Not anymore. That sentence hit her harder than anything else. I could hear it in the silence that followed. Then the crying started again. Real crying. The kind that sounds painful. I can't believe you're doing this, she whispered. We've been together for 2 years. 2 years, I repeated. Exactly. What does that mean? It means you should have known better. Another long silence. Finally she said something softer. Can we at least talk about this in person? I thought about it, seeing her face, hearing her explanations, maybe even believing them, but the image from the video kept flashing in my head. So I answered honestly, I don't think there's anything left to talk about. And then I ended the call. For the next hour, my phone didn't stop buzzing. Messages from Maya kept coming. Long paragraphs, excuses, apologies, anger. It was like watching someone move through all 5 stages of grief in real time. First denial. This isn't what it looks like. Then anger. You're being ridiculous. Then bargaining. Let's just talk when you calm down. Then sadness. I can't believe you're throwing us away. I didn't reply. Not to any of it. Eventually the messages slowed down. Then stopped. The silence that followed felt strangely peaceful. For the first time in days, my mind wasn't spinning. I turned on the TV and tried to focus on something else. But about an hour later, my phone buzzed again. This time it wasn't Maya. It was Ashley, the same friend who posted the Instagram story. I stared at her name on the screen for a few seconds before opening the message. It read, "Hey, I think I owe you an apology." That immediately caught my attention. I typed back, "For what?" 3 dots appeared, then disappeared, then appeared again. Finally her message came through. "I didn't realize you'd see that video." "That's not really the point," I replied. Another pause. Then she sent a longer message. "Look, I don't want to get in the middle of your relationship, but you deserve to know something." My stomach tightened slightly. "Know what?" I asked. Her next message took about 30 seconds to arrive. Honestly, that video was the tame part of the night. I sat up straighter on the couch. "What do you mean?" Another pause. Then the message came through. That guy didn't just sit down for 10 minutes. They were talking most of the night. My chest felt heavy suddenly. Talking, Ashley replied quickly. Drinking together, dancing, laughing. Then she added something else. Everyone thought they came together. I stared at the screen, reading the message over and over again, because it confirmed the one thing I had suspected. That moment in the video wasn't random. It was just the only part that got filmed. I typed back slowly. "Did anything else happen?" There was a long pause this time. Almost a full minute. Finally she replied. "I didn't see them leave together. But they disappeared for a while." That was enough information. More than enough. I leaned back on the couch and closed my eyes. For a moment, I imagined the version of the story Maya would have told if I had confronted her immediately. Probably something like, "He was just a drunk guy. He sat next to me for 2 seconds. I didn't even notice his hand." But the truth looked very different now. Not 2 seconds. Not 10 minutes. Most of the night, I typed one final message to Ashley. "Thanks for being honest." She replied almost instantly. "I'm really sorry." Then the conversation ended. I set my phone down on the table. And for the first time since all of this started, I felt completely certain about my decision. Because the worst part about betrayal isn't what people admit to. It's what you find out after. And in this case, the video was just the beginning. After Ashley's message, everything felt different. Not more painful, not more dramatic, just clearer. Because up until that point, there was still a small voice in my head wondering if I had overreacted. Maybe Maya was telling the truth. Maybe it really was just a weird moment in a loud club. But Ashley's messages erased that possibility. Talking most of the night, drinking together, dancing, disappearing for a while. That wasn't an accident. That was a choice. And once someone makes that kind of choice, there isn't much left to debate. I turned my phone off and tried to sleep. But sleep didn't come easily. Every memory of the last 2 years kept replaying in my head. The first time Maya said she loved me. The day we moved into the apartment in Las Vegas. The way she used to grab my arm when we crossed busy streets. All those small moments suddenly felt different. Not fake, but fragile, like something that had quietly been breaking for a long time. The next morning my phone was full of missed calls. Most of them were from Maya. But one message stood out. "Please meet me." It was short, simple, sent around 2:30 a.m. I didn't reply right away. Instead, I made coffee and sat by the window. The desert morning light filled the apartment. Cars moved slowly on the street below. Everything outside looked normal, but inside my head, everything had changed. Around noon, another message came. "I know you talked to Ashley." That one surprised me. Then another text followed. She told me, "Please let me explain." I stared at the screen for a long time. Part of me didn't want to hear anything else. But another part wanted closure. Not for the relationship, just for myself. So I finally replied, "Where?" Her answer came almost immediately. "The cafe near our apartment. The same place we used to go for Sunday brunch. A small spot a few blocks away from the building in Las Vegas." I thought about it for a few seconds. Then I typed one word. "Okay." When I walked into the cafe, Maya was already there. Sitting at a corner table. For a second, seeing her again felt surreal. She looked tired. Her hair was tied back in a messy bun. Dark circles under her eyes. The confident, energetic girl I remembered from before the trip looked completely different. She stood up when she saw me. "Hi," she said quietly. "Hi." We sat down across from each other. For a few seconds, neither of us spoke. The waiter came by and asked if we wanted anything. I ordered coffee. Maya just shook her head. Then she looked at me. "I'm sorry," she said. Those were the first words. No excuses. No explanations. Just sorry. I nodded slightly. She continued. "Ashley told me what she said to you." "Okay." Maya took a deep breath. "That night, we met a group of guys at the club." I didn't interrupt. "We were all drinking," she continued. "And yeah, I talked to one of them for a while." "A while?" I asked. She looked down at the table. "Most of the night. At least that part was honest now." "We were just talking," she added quickly. "Flirting." She hesitated, then nodded slowly. "A little." That word hung in the air between us. A little, like it was supposed to make the situation smaller. I took a sip of coffee. Then asked the question that had been sitting in my mind since the beginning. "Did you leave with him?" Her head snapped up immediately. "No." "Did you kiss him?" Another pause. Then she shook her head. "No." For a moment, I tried to read her face, trying to figure out if she was telling the truth. But honestly, it didn't matter anymore. Because even if nothing else happened, everything that led up to it had already crossed the line. Maya leaned forward slightly. "I swear nothing else happened." "I believe you," I said. That surprised her. "You do?" "Yeah." Her shoulders relaxed slightly. Then I added something else. "But it doesn't change anything." Her expression fell again. "Why not?" I leaned back in the chair. "Because you didn't accidentally flirt with someone all night. You chose to." She shook her head quickly. "It didn't mean anything." "Maybe not to you," I said. "But it meant something to me." Her eyes started filling with tears again. "I made a mistake," she said. "One stupid night. People make mistakes." "That's true," I replied. "But mistakes still have consequences." The cafe was quiet around us. People drinking coffee, typing on laptops, completely unaware that a 2-year relationship was ending at the corner table. Maya wiped her eyes. "Are you really not going to give me another chance?" I thought about it carefully. Not emotionally, just honestly. Then I answered, "No." That single word seemed to hit her harder than anything else. Because deep down, she probably expected this conversation to fix things. To convince me, to rewind everything back to normal. But some moments don't rewind. Some moments only reveal what was already broken. After a few seconds, she whispered one final question. "Did you ever love me?" I looked at her, really looked at her, and answered truthfully, "Yeah." Her voice trembled. "Then why is it so easy for you to walk away?" I shook my head slightly. "It's not easy." "Then why?" I finished the last sip of my coffee. Then I said the one thing that had been sitting in my mind since that night. "Because if I stay, I'll never forget that moment in the video. And that's not a relationship anymore." After that conversation at the cafe, there really wasn't much left to say. Maya sat there quietly for a few seconds, like she was trying to find the right words to rewind time. But time doesn't rewind, it just keeps moving forward, whether you're ready or not. Finally, she stood up. "Okay," she said softly. That was it. No dramatic speech, no begging, just, "Okay." For a moment I thought she might say something else. Maybe ask me to reconsider. Maybe apologize again. But instead, she grabbed her purse and walked toward the door. Right before leaving, she stopped, turned around, and said one last thing. "I hope you never regret this." Then she walked out of the cafe. I sat there for a while after she left. Not because I was waiting for her to come back. Just because ending something that lasted 2 years doesn't feel real right away. Even when you know it's the right decision. Outside, the afternoon sun was bright over Las Vegas. People were walking down the street. Tourists laughing, cars honking, life going on like nothing had happened. Which is funny when you think about it. Because the world never pauses for personal disasters. The next few weeks were quiet. Maya didn't call again. She sent one final message 2 days later. "I'm sorry for everything." I didn't reply, not because I was angry, but because sometimes the healthiest thing you can do after a breakup is stop reopening the conversation. I moved into a small apartment on the west side of Las Vegas. Nothing fancy, just a 1-bedroom place with enough space for my couch, desk, and TV. It felt strange at first. Living alone again. Cooking dinner for one person. Watching movies without someone next to you making commentary the whole time. But slowly, things started feeling normal again. Peaceful even. Then about 3 weeks later, something unexpected happened. I got a message from a number I didn't recognize. At first I almost ignored it. But the preview caught my attention. "Hey, you don't know me, but I think we need to talk." That sentence alone was enough to make me curious. So I opened it. The message continued. "My name is Daniel. I was in Vegas a few weeks ago for a bachelor party." My stomach tightened slightly. Then the next line appeared. "I think I'm the guy from the video." For a second, I just stared at the screen, reading the message again and again. Then another message came through. I didn't know she had a boyfriend. That part made me sit up. Daniel continued. "One of the guys from the trip showed me your Reddit post. And I recognized the situation immediately." He sent another message right after that. "I just wanted to say I'm sorry." Apparently, Daniel was from Chicago. He explained that he and his friends were in Las Vegas for a bachelor party weekend. The same club, the same night. According to him, Maya and her friends approached their table first. They started talking, drinking together, dancing, the usual club stuff, but he claimed something interesting. She told me she was single. I stared at that message for a long time. Not shocked, just disappointed, because even after everything, part of me still hoped she had at least been honest about that. Daniel continued. "We were flirting most of the night. But nothing happened. We didn't hook up, I swear." Then he added something else. "When I saw the post online, I realized what probably happened. And honestly, if I knew she had a boyfriend, I would have backed off." Maybe he was telling the truth. Maybe he wasn't. But at this point, it didn't really matter. Because the relationship was already over. I typed back one short reply. "Thanks for telling me." Then I set the phone down. And that was the moment everything finally clicked in my mind. Not the video, not the breakup, not even the conversation at the cafe, but the simple fact that she had told a stranger she was single. Because that tells you something deeper than flirting ever could. It means, at least for that night, you didn't exist. Later that evening, I went for a walk. The desert air was warm. The lights of the strip glowing in the distance. And for the first time since all of this started, I felt completely at peace. Not because I won the breakup. Not because Maya regretted anything. But because I trusted my instincts. A 10-second video might seem like a small thing. But sometimes small moments reveal big truths. And the truth in this case was simple. If someone can forget you that easily in a crowded club in Las Vegas, then you were probably the only one still holding on to the relationship. And that's not love. That's just waiting for the truth to show up. Luckily for me, it did.